If you cannot do great things yourself, remember that you may do small things in a great way. That's the quote here on the side of the book on one of these pages here, Napoleon Hill, Laws of Success. We're still on number 1 of 8, but we're getting our way through it here. You can see we're almost done the first part. So today is going to be kind of a follow-up of the mastermind that we talked about on Friday last week. And I got a couple different things that I want to talk about with it as well, but I really like the idea in here. So if you're listening to this now or later, think about how powerful something like this is and why more people aren't utilizing stuff like this. I feel like every company I've ever worked in would benefit from something like this. And when you hear about it, it's about the what's it called? The 1 per week club. Really like this idea. So when you're listening to this, try to think of like something relatable to your own life, whether it's at your job or in your business or something that you could kind of apply these mastermind principles to, and the 1 per week club idea. Really like that. So let's get into this today. This is going to be a shorter video. I think it's only about 5 minutes long, but we'll discuss after. I think.
The student
There we go.
of this course should be sure that the principle described as the mastermind is thoroughly understood before proceeding with the remaining lessons of the course.
I love this. So again, this book is from 1928. So this next paragraph here, I try not to stop this, but this is hilarious to me. That's why I wanted to start it here. But it says, if you are not sure that you understand this law, communicate with the author of this course and secure further explanation by asking such questions as you may wish. So Napoleon Hill saying, hey, if you don't understand this mastermind principle here, reach out. Reach out to me. I'll send you a letter. Hopefully it'll get there in the next couple months and we'll try to sort things out. Crazy. So anyways, here we go.
The reason for this is the fact that practically the entire course is closely associated with this law of mind operation. If you are not sure that you understand this law, communicate with the author of the course and secure further explanation by asking such questions as you may wish concerning points in connection with which you believe you need further information. You cannot spend too much time in serious thought and contemplation in connection with the law of the mastermind, for the reason that when you have mastered this law and have learned how to apply it, new worlds of opportunity will open to you. This introductory lesson, while not really intended as a separate lesson of the Law of Success course, contains sufficient data to enable the student who has an aptitude for selling to become a master salesman. Any sales organization may make effective use of the law of the mastermind by grouping the salesmen in groups of 2 or more people who will ally themselves in a spirit of friendly cooperation and apply this law as suggested in this lesson. An agent for a well-known make of automobile, who employs 12 salesmen, has grouped his organization in 6 groups of 2 men each, with the object of applying the law of the mastermind, with the result that all the salesmen have established new high sales records. This same organization has created what it calls the 1 a week club, meaning that each man belonging to the club has averaged the sale of 1 car a week since the club was organized. The results of this effort have been surprising to all. Each man belonging to the club was provided with a list of 100 prospective purchasers of automobiles. Each salesman sends 1 postal card a week to each of his 100 prospective purchasers and makes personal calls on at least 10 of these each day. Each postal card is confined to the description of but one advantage of the automobile the salesman is selling and asks for a personal interview. Interviews have increased rapidly, as have also sales. The agent who employs these salesmen has offered an extra cash bonus to each salesman who earns the right to membership in the 1 a week club by averaging 1 car a week. The plan has injected new vitality into the entire organization. Moreover, the results of the plan are showing in the weekly sales record of each salesman. A similar plan could be adopted very effectively by life insurance agencies. Any enterprising general agent might easily double or even triple the volume of his business with the same number of salesmen through the use of this plan. Practically no changes whatsoever would need to be made in the method of use of the plan. The club might be called the Policy a Week Club, meaning that each member pledged himself to sell at least one policy of an agreed minimum amount each week. The student of this course who has mastered the second lesson and understands how to apply the fundamentals of that lesson, a definite chief aim, will be able to make much more effective use of the plan here described. It is not suggested or intended that any student shall undertake to apply the principles of this lesson, which is merely an introductory lesson, until he has mastered at least the next 5 lessons of the Law of Success course. The main purpose of this introductory lesson is to state some of the principles upon which the course is founded. These principles are more accurately described, and the student is taught in a very definite manner how to apply them in the individual lessons of the course. The automobile sales organization referred to in this summary meets at luncheon once a week. 1 hour and a half is devoted to luncheon and to the discussion of ways and means of applying the principles of this course. This gives each man an opportunity to profit by the ideas of all the other members of the organization. 2 tables are set for the luncheon. At one table, all who have earned the right to membership in the One-a-Week Club are seated. At the other table, which is serviced with tinware instead of china, all who did not earn the right to membership in the club are seated. These, needless to say, become the object of considerable good-natured chiding from the more fortunate members seated at the other table. It is possible to make an almost endless variety of adaptations of this plan, both in the field of automobile salesmanship and in other fields of selling. The justification for its use is that it pays. It pays not only the leader or manager of the organization, but every member of the sales force as well. This plan has been briefly described for the purpose of showing the student of this course how to make practical application of the principles outlined in this course. The final acid test of any theory or rule or principle is that it will actually work. The law of the mastermind has been proved sound because it works. If you understand this law, you are now ready to proceed with Lesson 2, in which you will be further and much more deeply initiated in the application of the principles described in this introductory lesson.
Love that. My favorite part of that whole thing is that that's so classic. What does it say here? The 2 tables are set for their lunch and they do every week. One table are those who have earned the right to membership at the One-a-Week Club, and the other table, which is serviced with tinware instead of china, are the ones who didn't earn the right to the membership in the club. Could you imagine? Imagine if that happened today. There would be just outrage. It'd be all over the news every single day of like this company segregating their employees. It's actually probably the opposite now. The people who don't deserve to be in their positions because of something like, I better be careful what I say here. But you know what I was going to say there, I think. So that's why we're tapping into this old knowledge, because it's much more natural. Everything that we're talking about here on the Underrated channel is natural, nature. It reflects nature. So that I found that kind of funny. The other thing too, though, a couple different things is kind of what I mentioned there at the start of this, is like try to think of how you could apply something like this to your life, your job, your business, whatever it is. It said it is possible to make an almost endless variety of adaptations of this plan, both in the fields of automobiles, salesmanship, and in other fields of selling. And I think it's important to note, kind of as we proceed in this course, and we've actually finished the first part here. So we're going to be moving on to part 2, which is finding your definite chief aim. But if you think about it in that sense, I think selling has a very negative connotation around it. But what you do every single day of your life is sell. You sell yourself. And a lot of people don't really know that. They're selling themselves. I'm selling myself right now. It sounds kind of weird to say, but it's true. Because if I was sitting here like a dipshit and just kind of talking nonsense, there probably wouldn't be anybody here. But there's people watching the show because they enjoy what I talk about, or they are entertained by it, or they get educated by it. They learn from it. But throughout your day, you're selling yourself to the world, to your spouse, to your kids, to your boss, to your employees, to your business partner, to prospective clients. All we do is sell. That's the whole point of life in a way. And so if you can find, going back to like the earlier parts of this chapter here, you need a pleasing personality for that. And so this is something that actually you're not born with. Some people might have different strands of a DNA that would be more beneficial to this and, more in line with it. But I think it's your environment. I think it's your environment as a kid. I think it's your environment today. We've talked a little bit about the environment, but that's kind of what makes you. And so you can actually take strides every day to become more pleasing. But even if you become the most pleasing person on the planet, you still need to surround yourself with people. You still need a team of people. And so that's kind of what this mastermind principle is all about. And it's about looking at human minds or people essentially as chemical elements. And some elements work with others well, and some don't, depending on what parts are making up each element. And so if you think about it that way, going back to the scientific element part of things, wouldn't it make sense because I just think back to my own journey here and all the different jobs that I've had through the years. And I feel like most organizations, most companies, they do this kind of stuff, but they don't really know why they're doing it. Like you have a team over here doing this, you have a team over here doing this. And especially if you work for a company that's like in sales, there's different sales teams. And some split off, some kind of do it all together, but they don't really realize that one person and this person, because they don't mix well together, that's basically defeating the whole mastermind of the group. And just think about like two or three, that's essentially what it is. Two or three people working in harmony towards an objective. That's what a mastermind is. And if you think about two or three people working together and all the knowledge that you have and all the knowledge that they have and all the resources and tools and their network, you can really leverage that. And if you do it properly, if those chemical reactions are good, you can really elevate what you're doing there. The three of you are much more powerful than one, but only if you're working in harmony. Because if you took me, let's just use a couple people in the chat here. If you took me, Buck 52, and Yogali here, who's trying to sell an investment to the group, the three of us, we would all have different knowledges. We would have specific knowledges. We would all have different resources that have helped us get to where we are today. We would all have three different networks. And imagine if you could have that mastermind that kind of comes together there, you could utilize all three of those people, their knowledge, their resources, their network, the tools that they have. You make something very powerful from that. But if me and Yogi don't get along, if our chemical reactions don't work well, we're not going to be working in harmony. It's actually going to be destructive. And I just think that most bosses and most companies that I've worked for in my life, they didn't really realize this principle here and how important that is, that these different chemical elements work well together. And if they do work together, it's magic. If they don't, it's dead on arrival. And so I think that it's one of those things is just really good information to have, regardless of whatever you're doing in life. This kind of a principle, it just makes so much sense once you know it. But again, it's not something that we're taught in school. It's not something that most organizations do well. And so it's not something that we would ever really be exposed to then. But when you break it down this way and you use that analogy and you think about the power of that, but then you also think about the flip side of it, where you could have two, let's say that Buck 52 and myself got along very well. We both had each other's backs. Our chemical reactions were good. But then you mix Yogi in there and he's out in left field. He's doing things different than us. He's not in harmony with us. Three people there could be very powerful, but because Yogi doesn't mix well with either myself or Buck 52, then it's over. So this is the case in business, in jobs, in sports, in anything. Anytime that you're working together with somebody, this is a very powerful premise here. And if you do it right, if you kind of put your pieces together the right way, if you mix your chemicals properly, you get magic. But if there's one element or even one atom that's kind of out of sync there, that's not working in harmony with the mastermind, then it's toast. So it's kind of crazy when you think about it that way. And I feel like if more companies and more organizations actually utilize this, there would be 10, 100, infinite amount more that they could have. But because they don't really apply this, again, because it's not something that we're taught. So I think that take this mastermind. He kind of said that if you don't understand this, then don't proceed. But we're going to proceed. And I'm hoping everybody here has a decent understanding of this at least. And when he talks about it in the future here, we'll at least be able to connect some dots along the way. So the next part here is going to be the definite chief aim. And that's going to be part 2. I guess it's part 2 of 8. And we're going to start that tomorrow. And I've been listening to it, the definite chief aim, and it's very interesting. I kind of wish Napoleon would have started with definite chief aim, but I can kind of see why he wanted to set the foundation here with this mastermind principle. So that's what I got for you today. So if you're watching on the Underrated channel, thanks for being here. I got the wrong QR code again. But shout out, we got a couple zaps over the weekend for people enjoying this channel. And we had a pretty successful Saturday video. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out yet, it's every Saturday we're going to be doing a little bit of ties with Bitcoin and with Napoleon Hill kind of stuff. So it was a good one on Saturday, I think anyways. I think a little bit biased, but anyways, hope you're enjoying these and we'll talk to you tomorrow.